I was born in Northern California, but my family lived in Los Angeles until I was about 11. Then we moved to London, England, and lived there until I was about 20 before moving back to Michigan. Actually, we had never lived in Michigan before, so I moved to Michigan. My father was actually a photographer and worked in Miami and Detroit and in the West Coast in California as well. He used to be a model for like Hudson's, the department store here in Michigan. Being on the other side of the lens, I think when he was really young, inspired him to pick up the camera. There's always been creative people around us. So my brother and I grew up in the kind of household that we were constantly surrounded by creatives, actors, or poets, or dancers, musicians. Well, I mean, first thing I'd probably lead your eye to is the horizon line. This represents the horizon for me. This is an experience out in the high desert. And basically what I was seeing was this beautiful sand and landscape with shadow being cast across it with rocks and boulders. So all of this represents that positive and negative created by the sun and light and shadow. And this is all the trees in the background off in the distance and in the low mountain range. So this is kind of the easiest way for me to express without being obvious about a specific location or geographic kind of experience, but this is what I found beautiful in this personal experience for me. I was in this part of nature and I stood and I looked upon this vista, and what stood out for me were the way the shadow and the light was dancing with these rocks, and then the kind of how linear and flat this was juxtaposed with these tree forms vertically and the uplifting kind of motion of the mountains. So this is just a horizon line. This represents one part of the view and this represents the other part of the view. And it can be whatever you want it to be too, obviously, but this is, I guess, the easiest way for me to kind of extrapolate or extract and then extrapolate upon the simple pleasures of that view for me. A painting like this exists in my head for a great deal of time before it actually manifests physically. I wrangle with how to, I look at the photos I took of this area and I try to remember that experience and try to just bring to the surface what is important for me to express in that telling of this story. So in this way, like the orange of the desert floor stood out. You know, the light blue and the kind of edge of the shadow stood out. So those are the things I choose to amplify. If I was to explore every single item and in that view, then it would be chaos, or it would be a photorealistic painting, and I find that boring. I appreciate it, boring for myself, and I also am not talented, even close to talented enough to do that. So, so that's what, I mean, I do think there's merit in refining that viewpoint and finding those points that really emphasize the story you're telling and the way you tell that story. You know, putting everything out there all the time just becomes chaotic. You know, it's hard to understand what you're trying to say. It's hard to have a voice. I'm the program manager for Red Bull Arts Detroit. It's a residency program for national artists. Hoping to open it up internationally next year. We have 3 residencies that consist of 3 artists at a time through the year. Then we have a curatorial fellowship that's about 10 or 12 months long. And every 2 months we have a literary or writer's fellowship. People come and visit and write and engage with the city and our other artists here. And every month we have a micro grant only for local artists. We're located in Eastern Market in Detroit. And we've been there since about, in operation since about 2012. So that I'm very proud of that program. It's evolved beyond my wildest dreams, but I expected it to, because it's feeding into a community of people that value that action, supporting artists and trying to find the most authentic and honest way of supporting arts and culture in the city, and redefining corporate patronage and what it means. When someone comes from Berlin or elsewhere, it's this mysterious place where all these amazing things have happened. So how can you feel inferior about this place of wonder? People are curious about this place because so much cool stuff has happened here. So many amazing people and personalities have come from this place. So of course, it's put on a pedestal, as it should be. If you're feeling inferior about this city, then the problem lies within you.